Okay, so this is the Littleton Sustainability Committee on April 3rd, 2025. And the first thing we'll do is a member roll call. Margaret, you want to?
Sure. I have Sarah Rombacher, Chair, Charlotte Dolenz, Margaret Gibbs, me, John Hagberg, Don McIver, Emily Squires, present. And as guests, we have Michelle Zelenka and Karen Morrison.
Okay. So the first order of business is minutes to approve. Did anyone have any comments?
Great minutes as always. I move to approve the minutes from the, how was it, March meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. I'll go around. Margaret?
Yes.
John?
Yep.
Don?
I wasn't there, but yes.
Emily?
I wasn't there, so I don't think I can approve them, correct?
You can abstain or approve, up to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll abstain.
Okay. And Charlotte?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also yes. Thank you, Margaret. Excellent minutes as usual. We have public input. I don't think anyone's here for just general input, so we'll move on. And we're tonight introducing Michelle Zelenka, who has joined us as Regional Energy Manager. And we're so happy to have you here, Michelle. I will let you introduce yourself.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you everyone for inviting me to my first sustainability committee. I'm really excited to be helping out with the climate action plan. So I was hired as part of a grant, the EECBG. I don't have the exact acronym on hand, but I will be doing work with Littleton and then 3 other towns. Townsend is also doing a climate action plan as well. So I can definitely see a little bit of collaboration on both towns. But I started in February, at the end of February. So far it's been a great learning experience, getting up to speed. And I guess a little bit about my background is I started out working at a energy efficiency consulting company. So I was doing a lot of research. It was a little bit of qualitative data, but also a lot of interviews with like architects and people sort of involved in clean energy programs and energy efficiency. Prior to that, I was studying in Texas, actually, and got my master's in geography with a focus on environmental science. And during that time, I worked for different municipalities, smaller cities there, helping them with their environmental outreach and education programs. So that's a little bit about me. I guess I'll open things up for questions before we dive into, I think the scope of work is kind of the next order of business. Or we could also just dive right in.
Charlotte, go ahead.
Yeah, great to meet you. And thanks so much for joining this call as well. Not necessarily for discussion today, but I would love eventually to hear from you. I think what just some of your thoughts are generally from your experience and exposure to this field, like of ways in which our sustainability committee can also engage, where you've seen or where you might see committees such as this one in Littleton, being influential. So yeah, just keen eventually to hear that. I mean, I think we'll get a little bit of that through the climate action plan and the process there. But given that we've got a few other irons in the fire, it would be great to sort of hear your perspective on that as well. Thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, certainly. Thank you.
Hi, Don McIver. I was glad to see what you had put together. The what you refer to as a work plan, scope of work. I mean, it's really a statement of work. I mean, it's sort of a mixture of things blended together. And I do have some comments once we get into it, and also some suggestions. One of the things that I guess intrigued me from what you were just said, that Townsend was doing a climate action plan. It's sort of interesting. Of the 4 communities, 3 of us fall into the very large collection of 167 towns that are covered by the Greater Boston Climate Action Plan. But Townsend is not one of them,
Mhm.
which, and I see from the minutes, I wasn't able to make the meeting because I had a conflict, that, someone's saying, well, maybe the MAPC model would be a good thing to use because there's yet another town also doing it. But Townsend doesn't seem to fit that large metropolitan statistical area of the 167 towns that are being coordinated by MAPC. So, I mean, were you aware of that? I mean, there's a lot of things I don't know about this, but I'm trying to connect the dots and see where the gaps are. And I'm glad there's another town that's doing a climate action plan, but it seems like in the minutes saying, well, there's commonality of 2 towns doing it, and wouldn't be good to use the MAPC model. So I don't know for sure. I mean, certainly I've heard from other people doing climate action plans that in the MAPC toolkit for greenhouse reduction, that was a very useful tool. And the huge bulk of this is greenhouse gas reduction, although there are other things too that are part of the climate action plan that aren't that. So did you just quickly, I mean, maybe a little bit your thoughts about Townsend, and were you aware that they may not be in the same inventory that you would be using for us?
Yeah, so I spoke with the MAPC representatives from their organization, and then also Townsend is part of Montechusett, that regional planning agency. So I spoke with them as well, and I believe I've been trying to follow up with them on their greenhouse gas inventory, but I believe they also use that same tool, the MAPC. It's like a spreadsheet that you were referring to. So I've been talking with them as well and just trying to get an idea of what their needs are and what sort of makes them different from Littleton as well. But yes, I do actually have an updated version of that greenhouse gas inventory tool. I believe the one that certain towns, I know Pepperell had done one a few years ago. It's using a 2017 baseline. I believe this one is the updated version is now using a 2022 baseline.
And the 2 phases of updating the plan includes the so-called priority one, which is actually has been submitted, I guess, as for 2024 to update a previous baseline of 2022. And in Littleton, we also have another baseline when we were part of the Green Communities group. Diane Dickerson, points that out. So hard to know how to blend it and what's going to be the true baseline. I think everything she has done has been based on when we were part of Green Communities. So, yeah, I don't know the answer, but I know things may be misaligned, and I don't know how that gets resolved, but it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make note of that as well. Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, I spent some time on the project work plan trying to understand it better and compare it to what we had as a presentation from the Canton community, which actually did a very nice job in outlining what they did. And I was just curious, have you seen any of their material? We have a video recording. We have the slides from it. And 2 months ago, I put together sort of a summary collection of things before you were on board. And I mean, that identifies 3 different climate action plans that we fall under. One's Massachusetts, one's the MAPC Greater Boston. I forget what the other one is. But yeah, everyone's trying to do the climate action plans. And the trick is, yeah, start getting the best of them and making sure they're in alignment for a number of reasons, including possible funding, et cetera.
Exactly.
Have you seen the presentation from Canton by Tom Birmingham by any chance?
I haven't seen the presentation. I believe they have a draft of the climate action plan. I've read through that, but I definitely do want to see those materials. I think that will be definitely helpful scoping out the work.
I mean, it's helpful for orientation. And I know this is a question that Charlotte had in a previous meeting. It's like, well, what's important with a Canton climate action plan? There are a couple of things. It's about the same population size, et cetera. And there's some differences. But the thing that's unusual about Tom Birmingham is a presentation I saw way back as part of the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and he's also a conservation commissioner. But it was a fairly impressive presentation that he was interested in, hoping that throughout the state of Massachusetts, conservation commissioners would sort of stretch and fill that gap. And so I got hooked up with him from that, and his presentation was very good to us. What is unusual with him is that he had worked, I think, for Eversource. So he had worked in the industry. He has all that background, and fairly flexible, which is better than I can say for most people in the energy utility business, as you probably well know. They're usually very straightforward, and I say that from working with them and other things. So he had that background. He's now a consultant. He had also worked for Mass DEP as a regulator, regulating over the business. And additional has the background of being a conservation commissioner. Usually those things do not work together. He's flexible. He has an engineering background, and all of his modeling, he uses standard models and tools that some which I'm not crazy about, but they're standard and they fit. And additionally, he also works with people doing agriculture, local agriculture. So he's an unusual person, has very comprehensive take. So it's interesting that he has done that, and what he presented was actually a very nice outline as to what they did in Canton. And I also
John,
no, just quickly. I look at the timing he had used for the different phases of that and try to compare that to the work plan, which, yeah, is a first draft. Yeah, you're trying to get something out. And so anyway, that's my take. I think it's worthwhile seeing that, and also the 3 pages I had put together. Only because
I'll get the link for Michelle and get her that.
No, but anyway, that's one of the takes. I have some specific concerns with the work plan. I don't know if we're ready for that.
Let's. John has a hand up. Can we let him speak?
Sorry, I just wanted to say I thought the work plan was straightforward and gave us some direction. I'd love to walk through it before we give feedback, Sarah, if that would be okay, just because I think there's been work that's gone into it, and I'd love to just see if we can't maybe walk through it and then have some discussion, if that would be all right with everyone, or I don't know, Sarah, what you'd like to do there.
Yeah, I was hoping that Michelle would run through it. And Michelle, I don't know if you want to share or if you want me to share the document.
Yeah, I can definitely share my screen. I've got it pulled up here. Let's see. Let's make sure it's on the right screen. There we go. And it looks like I should be able to share. Let me get it pulled up here. Okay, think that should, is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Yeah, so part of how I guess this work plan was formulated was also using some previous work by the MAPC, speaking with them, and then also NIMCOG's resources as well. So part of the first step is going to be, the kickoff meeting, communicating the process to the public. And I think having that initial involvement with the public is going to be really important kind of down the line. So I included here a number of public forums as well. Again, keeping people informed and involved in the process. So the I was thinking sort of once the scope of work is defined, gathering data, and the next step would be the greenhouse gas inventory. Based on previous work that MAPC has done, as well as NIMCOG's related work, we felt that having a public forum informing the public about the inventory, gathering their feedback, would be a start to kind of coming up with ways to reduce emissions and those strategies. And then it was also recommended that there's a second public forum kind of halfway through the process, again, to kind of provide that feedback as the cap is being developed and continue to refine those strategies. And then, of course, towards the end of writing the climate action plan, which will be sort of helping inform the public of the results, and then also the select board as well. Another aspect of the plan is the townwide survey. Again, we want to target multiple different populations within the town to kind of be able to get the feedback to a wider audience. So a number of different groups, such as those within like agriculture, even younger like high school students as well, because we want to make sure it's a process that's ongoing and the next generation is kind of informed of the plan. And another aspect as well is focus groups, so interviews with these different members of the community and stakeholders as well. So teachers, property owners, those types of individuals, to get their feedback and continue to incorporate their ideas within the plan. So here I have the sort of data analysis and the greenhouse gas analysis occurring around June and July. I've started to gather data from MEI and reviewing planning documents. But once and having that sort of analysis completed by July in time for that public forum. And then another way of kind of continuing to like refine the goals of the climate action plan I felt it would be good to kind of have another almost memo created around January, just to again further refine these strategies before the cap is actually drafted, which will begin around March of next year. And then broken down here, it's more I guess you could call deliverables of the climate action plan. So that memo in January, the development of the final cap by May of 2026, and of course a presentation presenting those results in May as well. And then throughout the process, as the data analysis is completed and the greenhouse gas inventory is performed, it's also going to be important to incorporate maps and graphics as well throughout that process. So that's sort of just a quick overview of the climate action plan. And I'd be more than happy to kind of incorporate any feedback as well.
Thank you for going through that. Yeah, I like your timeline, and I like that how you've laid things out, and the deliverables that you've listed. Looks like, I don't know who clicked first, but Charlotte, you're at the top of the screen, so I'll pass it to you next.
I feel like, John, you were in line before me.
Not at all you.
Well, equally, Michelle, I would just say thank you for putting this together. I also like how the sort of buckets come together, sort of these different dimensions really of the process. And I think it's really nice to see those as kind of three, like you've put them as tasks, but sort of three essentially distinct components of this project. So I really like that. I guess a question/comment around the communication piece. We had another conversation unrelated to this the other day, just about how even with the best intentions, communication is in and of itself a skill set. So just wondering, how you'll be tackling some of that really very, I guess, punchy, for want of a better word, punchy communication. I feel like some of the projects in town have done a really, really great job of that. The materials are slick, it's easy to understand. And I think that then is borne out later on down the line when we do have public forums on things, that people do feel so much more informed and are more informed. So I guess that was a question sort of throughout this. And then the second question, and we may not fully get to this in today, but I'm still not sure if it is relevant, and if so, how it is relevant to discuss some of Littleton's kind of big ticket projects that are happening in town in relation to this climate action plan. On the one hand, you could think of this as a kind of train that it's on its own tracks, and we want to kind of stay focused and not get too distracted. On the other hand, these timelines, are essentially the timelines of the Shaker Lane building project, of much of the King Street development sort of kicking off, even the new lease kicking off at the Orchard, all of which have a really interesting component of greenhouse gas emission reduction to them. And I would love to hear your thoughts on, again, is it relevant to try to find synergies there? Does it help the climate action plan to find those very practical places where we can say, oh, this is why it would matter for, these very tangible near-term things? Or is it essentially a distraction to do that? So just curious for your thoughts down the line. But yeah, over to John and Don as well.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. And I think it'll be important to kind of incorporate those narratives as well into the climate action plan. I think, part of looking at other examples as well, there is sort of a narrative portion that sort of shows like how far the community has come from when they became a green community, for example. So I think including that will definitely be important as well.
John.
Yeah. Again, thank you. Really appreciate it seeing it broken out this way and thoughtful, super helpful for me. From a dates standpoint, I see that the town administrator, right, signs off on the SOW. I'm unclear if we've aligned these dates with any like key milestones around town meetings and anything that like logistically has to happen. And again, this is a naive question and doesn't need to be answered here, but if like when we get to the end with a climate action plan and we present it to select board, there's something in the back of my head saying we needed to go to town meeting somewhere in there. And I don't know exactly how that fits. So in a future iteration, it would just be helpful for me to know whether that's necessary, unnecessary, and how it all works. And then some of the dates like July and December both jumped out to me as dates that I would be concerned around participation. So to Charlotte's good point, right? Like it's the pop and it's the timing that seems to drive a lot of this. And so just something for us to watch out for. And you're not going to necessarily know what's happening around town, but that's where we should be able to lean in and help you as a sustainability committee, and the town administrator can as well. So yeah, those were the big ones. And I would just say the why behind it. This is the what and the how. Really nailing that why is what's going to sell it throughout the community. And so just the more you pay attention to that and the more we can help with that, the more successful I've seen this be in other parts of Littleton and outside. So just thanks for the work, and it's a great first step. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I definitely agree with the certain dates, and definitely want to kind of incorporate, like you said, town meeting, see where that fits into the process as well, and select board meetings, things like that.
Yeah, and I think when Diana and I met with you, Michelle, we talked about something that we can do is the third Thursdays. That's an opportunity to get started with that outreach. So we did, Diana and I did let Michelle know like all the sort of things that happen in town that we might be able to hook into, and also shared a lot of resources for sort of what avenues people get their local news from, since lacking a very local newspaper. What's other sorts of Facebook's groups or other newspapers and things. So we did kind of talk about that local aspect of engaging with the public too. Forget if there was something else I should say. John, you still have your hand up, or you good? Okay. All right, Don, if you have
Yes,
brief comments.
Well, I mean, I looked at it, I do have some comments. So, brief or not brief, there's some things that should be looked at. Yeah, and I agree with Charlotte. There's a lot of things happening. So, a lot of development projects that you have to be proactive with while the climate action plan's being built. So, like John, I had concerns about some of the timing, and some of that I think is worthwhile to adjust. I mean, it's impressive for, first draft coming out with a plan like this. What I try to do, just to understand it, to see what the timing was, to try to map it out, sort of like a high level Gantt chart. Not any more detail than what you have, but try to understand what's happening when, what's happening at the same time. One of the things I think, well, there are two things I think is missing. One, adapting it to our town meeting schedule, which I think is important. And the second thing is, nowhere along here is there creating a mandate that says this is an urgency and we need to do this. And that's one of the ways of getting buy-in from the whole town. Not only the various departments and boards who don't necessarily collaborate. You know, it has to be buy-in from everyone. Um, and yeah, we have a separate board that's in charge of the electric department, unlike, say, Ipswich, which was presented, which reports to the selectmen, but also just the citizens at large. So my take on this, looking at it, I mean, I think it's good, but I would suggest maybe compressing the first part. I look at what other people have done, action plans, and I went through the Canton thing just because it's an example. And they had about 2 months for research and analysis. And some of that we already have. Another 2 months for engagement with the public. And that was midway through. And the other 6 months or so, we're putting together the CAP plan, which it's going to take a amount of work. And it's more than just the greenhouse reduction aspect. That's the big chunk of this. And that's important for a lot of different ways. But there are other things too that fall in different sectors that are part of it. I would think it would make sense to look at our political structure when we have our meetings. We have a fall town meeting, which typically happens maybe in November. And if we could have a mandate that the town would vote on and get people behind it, that would be a big thing. And I would think back planning it from there. I mean, focus groups are good, but yeah, maybe fewer or combining a couple. But yeah, educating the public and having them on board and having people at town meeting either back it or not. If we don't back it, then we're in trouble, regardless of what we do. So I would think that that would be critical. Plus, town meetings are a great way of gathering everyone together. Not only supporters, but the people that disagree. And yeah, it's a chance to get all that out and get momentum. And if we don't have that, then that's a problem. Yes, people may check off stuff and agree a little bit, but if there's momentum and a mandate that people back, people can always point to that and say, we all had to say, this is what we agreed to. So anyway, that's my take. And I think it is helpful to, just put it on a timeline, a very high level timeline, not make work, just understand how things interact with other things. As you probably know in the document, the numbering system has some issues. There's a missing task 2.2 and 2 task 3.1s. But yeah, that's all minor type stuff. So anyway, that's my take. So I was interested in what other people's take is on trying to aim for that fall town meeting, having a mandate and have people on board on that. And we could also educate at that town meeting, before coming in. Sometimes town meetings, there's sort of an update of what's going on without any voting. I mean, that could also happen at other times. And our annual town meeting is in April or May. So that's another time frame. Now, I think in Townsend, you would probably do the same thing. Look at what are the critical milestones, major events that you have to adapt to. Anyway, those are my comments.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah.
Oh no, if you have comments, go ahead.
No, I definitely agree. I think the mandate is a good idea, and the being able to adapt it to key milestones like the town meeting is going to be important. Thank you.
Go ahead, Charlotte. Oh, yes.
Oh, thanks. It's a quick one, and maybe well, just wondering if you could break down maybe in the subsequent versions of the document what, if anything, does need to be voted on. Are there some of those more administrative or legislative, I guess, aspects to this? I have no idea. So, but that I think would be helpful just to punctuate that timeline and know if there are any must-haves in this process. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because
again, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a long process, so I agree. I think that's important.
Yeah, it would be good to have the any required votes that we need to have, and I guess I Well, I'd also be interested in Karen's thinking on this, but if it's, I don't know if any more, like, I think the first towns that were doing climate action plans were declaring a climate emergency, and that was like their mandate. And I don't personally know if that's still necessary and worth the, I guess there's a risk of, like, if we don't communicate well and people are confused about what we're asking, getting a no vote, and then what do you do? So, but I think that presenting at town meeting maybe could be a possibility. I don't know if Karen, if you do want to say anything about that, or if you're able to. If not,
No, I can. Although I don't have a whole lot of to say that's helpful at the moment. What I can do is research it a little bit and see what the requirements would be. But from what I understand, Sarah, yeah, most of the towns that have done it have started out with a declaration of emergency, and then the plan follows after that. So, but yeah, I can see if that's still required as like as a condition precedent before you can introduce the plan.
Don.
Sure. In talking to Diane Dickerson, when I filled in for the meeting that we had the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, she was sharing that, she's hearing pushback about, well, maybe we shouldn't do so many things in electric, this and that. There's certainly the questions of federal funding in the future. There's an undercurrent of that. I think what we need to do is really have people focused. And that's one of the big advantages of having a mandate that people vote on. And not only the vote, but all the preparation to get there, which is the citizen engagement. And hear people's arguments and if they have negativity or whatever, address that. So, we are sort of in unison. But it is interesting that Diane has mentioned that she's heard from other people pushing back. And, it's understood that, if you're replacing something, you have a choice of like a gas motor versus electric. If you can get electric, that's good. You may not dispose of all your gas stuff immediately and switch over, but when it's time to transition, you do it. And I think that's sort of the approach of the greenhouse gas reduction, that there's a strategy of how we move ahead, but to have us focus together. And when we stray away from that, or one of these major projects strays away from that, we can point to the fact, well, wait a minute, this is important. We're all working together for these goals. Anyway, that's it.
Michelle, I had a question. We talked in the multi-town meeting, and I see you have it here that you're developing a one-page sort of information about what a climate action plan is to start off the outreach process. Do you have any information about that, or if you've started it or at all?
Yes, I have been working on it, and it's not complete yet, but that's something I can definitely have done definitely by the end of the month.
Okay. Yeah, it came to mind again because actually Charlotte had mentioned that she was thinking also about like how to start that education process. So just wanted to connect those 2 points. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Yeah, and I just keep coming back to that piece. It just seems like it's going to be so important, connecting like the why and the sort of why now as well, and also maybe as we're talking about the choices and the focus. I think, as you said, Don, where should we emphasize that in the communication materials? Are we emphasizing this as kind of individual level citizen participation? Are we emphasizing this as more town municipal actions? Where is the biggest bang for our buck here as a town? I think all of that stuff has the potential to both put people off and get people on board, right? Depending on how it's sold. And again, with just some really, really big municipal projects taking place in the town, I think it's a huge opportunity to capitalize on a lot of the noise, quite frankly, that's happening for those things, to insert a climate action plan conversation into that as well. So I might just maybe even, I assume this is probably part of your own work plan process, but just participating in those forums, kind of, I know the covert communication strategies where just getting that
definitely.
word out into the different spaces, I think could be really impactful as well. But yeah, as Sarah said, I'm very happy to help with any drafting or anything you want to put us to work on in terms of those materials. Always happy to contribute.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we have a monthly town newsletter that goes out over email. So that's maybe one of the first things that we can use to get some material out. The deadline is the middle of the month. I think we can potentially give the person doing it a heads up that we need some space if it's not ready then, but would be by the end of the month. But so just to let you know that, I guess if there are no other comments, I was going to ask Michelle, what do you need from us?
So I think, working on like the one pager or like information for the like public outreach. I know you shared the different like avenues for outreach. I think connecting me to sort of those, which it sounds like we're kind of in the process of doing, I think is going to be important. One thing I did also want to mention is because Littleton is a like municipal light, I think it's going to be also very important to talk with someone from there, excuse me, as well. And then I met with Diane last week to do a tour of the municipal facilities. And she mentioned Dave Riley, I believe. Speaking with him, I think getting those connections as well is going to be an important step.
Yeah, it'll be probably Connor Reardon from LELWD. He is actually a liaison to this committee. So I can connect you with both Connor and Dave.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Then I think we can move on to the next
Yeah,
topic.
can I add something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand up, Don. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know, throughout Massachusetts, there are 43 municipal light plant communities. And yeah, we are certainly one. We've tried to look at other plans that might have them because, yeah, their collaboration and the take of it's a lot different than some other communities that have a private investor power source. So of some of the cap plans have been circulated. I noticed there was Ipswich. Ipswich might be an interesting community to talk to because they're a municipal light plant. They're about the same size as we are. They have differences. They're coastal, but they must have resolved the issues, and they do have a sustainability director in place. I know also Jim, our town administrator, does know the town administrator in Ipswich. We've shared some other things. But yeah, that's a big thing. That is, we have a separate municipal light plant agency.
Yeah, and I would definitely want to kind of connect, if possible, like with other towns as well, like you mentioned Ipswich, just again to learn from them, and I think that'll be really really helpful.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for coming and walking us through this document. And we definitely look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, and yeah, I appreciate you all having me today, and I'll definitely follow up with uh, more info as well.
You're just curious about next steps. Are we likely to see another version? Um, or, yeah, I just wonder what happens next. Because this looks like something to be signed off on. And also, yeah, this is sort of a high level. I mean, it's a little bit of statement of work, a little bit of scope, a little bit of work plan. And yeah, there's some flexibility. But yeah, that fall town meeting is 10 months out, and there's certainly we can help in a lot of this. Yeah, it just doesn't all fall on you. That's 10 months. We should be able to get our stuff together to have something decent for a fall town meeting. That's it.
Yes, thank you. I'll definitely be working on refining the scope of work as well, and that outreach, kind of one pager. Um, all right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
All right. So the next item is the MVP 2.0. So there is a planning grant. It looks like it's opening in the fall. And I reached out to the town administrator to let him know about that. He was concerned about Diane having enough bandwidth to do anything with that. So I wrote back and said that one aspect of the MVP program was sort of a broader scope, and I said that other departments could, like conservation or planning, could definitely also be involved, and that we could potentially, lend some help there too. But we definitely need someone on the town side who can do the actual, submitting and all that. So that's sort of open right now with him. He was going to talk with Diane, and hopefully maybe he'll talk with some of the other departments. Wanted to ask if anyone here had a special interest in sort of, taking that, sort of shepherding it along, if we want to go ahead and try to move to get that. As I understand it, we would apply for the planning grant. That helps us to look at what we could do for, then there are follow-on grants that you can get after that. And Don, you have your hand.
Yeah, so I mean, with MVP, yeah, as you said, there's a planning part that's really sort of a baseline, and that's supposedly everyone coming together. And I did participate when we did it initially when Aaron Healy coordinated it, and that's supposedly your baseline. And yeah, the whole idea was to have all the departments weigh in, and yeah, a lot of the stuff wasn't very enlightened. When they said, "Oh, the chief concern is where to store snow when they plow and stuff," didn't really fit into the climate action plan. But once that's done, and then you can go for the action grants, which, if you remember correctly, we did. That's in part how we funded the Brown property, which had housing, flooding reduction, open space, did a number of things. So, and there are a number of grants that flow around. There was one recently with the Barr Foundation, which has very deep pockets, was helping to fund it for climate. So, I mean, the sooner, and if you have the wrong baseline, what you do is you come together and readjust it and update it. So it sounds like, at least from reading the minutes, there's a template that someone has suggested, which is probably more climate focused, which is probably worthwhile bringing in. Having a meeting, maybe not going way out, but even it could be a quick meeting to adjust that. So then we're ready for the action grants. And when these things come along, they pop up quickly. It's nice to have lead time, but usually you hear it's going to be next week or something. I mean, that's what happened in the grant that funding what we're doing now. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in doing it, but yeah, if you string out too much to planning, I mean, we're doing a lot of planning with a climate action plan. These things are not independent, you know, they have similar focus. So yeah, we should do that. And so whatever the template is that someone suggested, yeah, it's worth looking at. It's probably more climate oriented than the original one. So anyway, I mean, we don't really have to shake all the bushes and stuff. We pretty much know what we want. We're updating it. We don't need to drag it out because the reward is the action grant. And yeah, so anyway, I mean, that's my take. Yeah, we should do it. And yeah, so we supplement what Diane's doing. We supplement what Michelle's doing. Yeah. So yes, I mean, it's a good idea.
Is that something you want to maybe work with Jim Duggan on to, if he does come up with someone in the town to be that, I forget the name of the contact that it would be, but
Well, the way we did previously is Erin Healy was on this committee and she actually ran the session. And she was no more.
I think she had some special training.
Oh yes, yeah,
that
I agree. And you're wondering why it's all water resources. That's because that's what she does. You know, we hired someone to do some.
Yeah, I'm not actually. Yeah, I'm just talking about like just someone to take on the task of talking with Jim and seeing like if the town does want to do this, if there's someone in a town department who will like work with, like the first step is accessing a system that we don't have access to, but someone in town does. And then, you know, looking at the timeline and what needs to be done. That's all. I'm just curious if someone, wanted to take that action.
Sure. And yeah, I don't think you're going to get an employee at town say, oh yes, give me more work. I mean, to be honest,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, let me talk to Jim again after
Sure.
this meeting, and
We should look at what's there and see what it will get us. But yeah, we should do something so we're enabled to get some additional grants when they come along.
yes. I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there, so I
just saying, yeah, we should look at what's involved and we should make sure we're enabled to get the action grants and that we have justification for it because
that's what I'm trying to
has it in there.
Yes, I'm trying to say that we should do this planning grant so that we have access to all those action grants. I just was trying to see how we could make that happen. All right, I'll talk to Jim about it.
Sarah, you said it's fall time frame that the application for the planning grant is, just to make sure I understand the.
That's
planning.
Yeah. On the website, it just says it'll open again in the fall. So I don't have any actual dates yet.
If you want to loop me in on the discussions with Jim, I may have some real busy months ahead in just the next 2-3 months for work. So I'm a little concerned with bandwidth, but I'm happy to be part of the discussion. Especially if it's fall, I should have a real clear picture by then. Okay. And happy if, you know, Jim's willing to hand it off, I can take a discussion forward without a problem. Be happy to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
So could you send us both information where this template is and information on the grant?
Yep. Okay. Next is Shaker Lane School Building Committee, Sustainability Subcommittee. That's a long name. Charlotte, do you have any updates?
My acronyms on this thing are just getting like off the page. All right, so I did promise to clarify for you all the sort of the 1%, the 3%, the 4% that we talked about last time. So I really quickly going to share this with you. This is just going back to what we discussed last time. Can you see this? Okay, so to clarify what
Can
I
just say that's
articulated.
really tiny on my screen. Can we look at maybe half at a time? Or does it only make sense if
Well, we don't actually have to look at all the detail. So I'm not going to, I can circulate this. So actually, we don't really, I just wanted to use this as a really quick way of articulating what I think I articulated quite poorly last time, which was this is the criteria for LEED certification. This is the Shaker Lane Project's sort of checkbox scorecard for that. And as you see here, they will, in the green boxes, is stuff that they're definitely going to do. And that totals 53 here. And you only need 50 or above to get to silver. So that is where they're getting the kind of the criteria that they're going to be a LEED silver school. That is the built in and baked into the baseline. And the project following MSBA's Green Schools program, being LEED silver is what is essentially getting them the MSBA reimbursement. And that reimbursement is a minimum of 31%. So that's where those numbers, when the school building committee says, you know, that MSBA will cover X amount of the project, it's because they're that's the estimate of at least the baseline amount that will be covered by MSBA. There is then additionally, if you get 5 points out of the possible 7 points in these categories, it's like winning a contest here, but if you get 5 out of 7 in these categories, that is what gets you the additional 1%. And as you can see here, at least there's 2 here, there's 3 here, so we get the 5 out of 7. That would get Littleton the additional 1%. That includes things around material ingredients, low emitting materials, and indoor air quality assessment. Then, if you optimize energy performance, and that is essentially what that boils down to, is all electric. So when I presented last week, I shared with you those materials. They're considering the different HVAC options. If you go all electric, that gets you these points, and that is what would get you your additional 3% reimbursement of the opt-in special code. So that is how you get essentially more reimbursement. I'm happy to share this. I don't think we need to sort of delve deeply into it. I just wanted to make that a little bit clearer for everybody. And essentially the takeaway for me from the conversations that I participated in is the more sustainable, the more money you get back. Like, it's a good win-win. One of the things that was, again, clear from the conversations and subsequent conversations that I've had is that there is the biggest concern around the overall sticker price of the new school. They have the tax calculator up on the website. They've, I think, communicated that quite well, but that is really what they are most focused on in terms of public communication. Having said that, this current phase that they're in will produce the total, the life cost of the project. And so that those figures will be available, not yet available, but will be available. And that will help to break down what the costs will be long-term, essentially. A couple of logistical things. I did reach out to Acton and Maynard. Their point person in Acton's actually on maternity leave, but it's actually the Acton Boxborough School District that developed their school. So I'm now in touch with the relevant person for discussing the sustainability aspects of that school in Acton. It's just been a little bit round the houses trying to get hold of the right person. So I haven't had a substantive conversation with them yet, unfortunately. So that is still on the docket. The next meeting of this Shaker Lane School Building Committee meeting will be April 16th. And they were keen to have participation by someone from our group to further discuss sustainability issues. And they will also be having this pre-meeting on May 6th. It's more of a public communication meeting prior to the town meeting. So that's May 6th at 6 p.m., a public forum to educate around the current status of the project. I did have one question I sent it out to the committee, but actually, Karen, I don't know, maybe you could answer this for us. All of the criteria to get the school to LEED Silver, to get the school to the 1%, to the additional 3%, all of that only requires the school to be solar ready and EV charger ready, I think, as we discussed briefly last time, but not actually to have panels and chargers installed, for example. So my understanding from the research is that that is often achieved through separate either grants or separate mechanisms. It's not usually part of the initial design phase of the school or building. So my question would be, is installation of those things actually on the cards, and is that something that the town would like to pursue, and is there a role for the sustainability committee to be pursuing that in parallel, or is that just something we want to park until the school project gets a little further underway? Happy to take questions to the extent that I can answer them. It's a complex project, so bear with me. Over.
Don.
Sure. You were mentioning about Acton Boxborough school system. The sort of long-term sustainability person there has been very well received and has saved a lot of money for Acton Boxborough's Kate Crosby. She would be a good person to talk to. That may be the person you were thinking of.
Yeah, thanks so much, Don. Yeah, I got an email out to her, so thank you.
Yeah, she's a good person. Yeah.
Great, wonderful.
Margaret.
I just wanted to get clarity and make sure I have it correct in the minutes. If you get a score of 50 or above, then that's what you need for LEED Silver. And then you would get a reimbursement of 31% of the total of the school cost. Minimum. And then another 1% for the additional 5 out of 7 points in 3 of the categories. And then another 3% for being basically solar ready. Is that correct?
All electric.
All electric.
So the mechanical, so the 3% is around this all electric mechanical systems. And I will say that the school building project website has documented all of this very well as well. It takes a little mining to get into it, but if anybody is interested in kind of really digging into the weeds, it's all on there as well. So I hope I have faithfully summarized it for you, Margaret.
Okay, and then I guess my other question is that you say that they're going to have something that talks about the total life cost of the projects. And I remember that there were at least 3 or 4 different ways that they were going to be heating, like different possibilities of heating. and maybe not just heating, but like HVAC in general.
The mechanical
And so
systems.
Were
Mhm.
they going to do a cost analysis of each of those or only of the less expensive ones?
So my understanding is that it will include an estimate for each of those mechanical systems options. So I think they had 3 all-electric options, 1 partial option, and that's actually very similar to what they did in the Acton Boxborough School as well. If you go into their planning documents, they're able to show side by side upfront cost, lifetime cost, in terms of maintenance, energy use, etc. So I believe they're following a similar pattern. But yeah, haven't seen the numbers yet.
Okay, thank you.
Are those numbers something that they're planning to have by the May 6th public meeting?
I was honestly not sure about that because they're in this phase 3. Yeah, I can find out that for you, Sarah, if they expect when they expect to have those numbers by. Yeah.
Just curious because that seems like a really important part of that calculation of do we spend a little extra money to get this percent, and then if the life cycle cost is quite different than that could be a compelling argument.
100%, especially seeing as they seem that the feedback that they have received so far is it's going to be the overall like the initial cost that is going to be most contentious with residents. But I would agree with you, if you're able to present those longer term costs, that would be incredibly informative. Yeah, I'll check on that for sure. Thanks.
Okay. I guess I was going to mention in member updates that the senior center solar panels are up on the roof.
I saw them going up. Yeah.
I don't know if they're operational yet, but I happened to I saw Jamie Eldridge at the library last night at an event, and I mentioned it to him, and because he helped to get the funding for the library panels, and he said that a lot of towns are looking for earmarks to help put solar panels on various buildings, and so I don't know if I don't know if that's so many people are asking that it's not going to be able to happen that way anymore.
Better get our name in there, yeah.
Or if it is a possibility. So I just mentioned it as I don't know if that's something that we would want to start thinking about, or if there are other avenues. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know we already had any irons in the fire on that one from the select board perspective.
I don't know if Karen, if you know, or I can try to find out from Mark if he knows anything as well.
Sorry, could you repeat?
No worries. I had asked Karen if there was any irons in the fire already about actually getting solar panel installation or charger installation tagged on to the school building project, recognizing that it is not part of the kind of current planning, and that the current planning is just to be solar ready, charger ready.
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Yeah, to my knowledge, no, Charlotte. I think for the senior center, I think as Sarah said, it was an earmark, I think, from Senator Eldridge. But certainly I can ask Diane if she's keeping an eye out for separate grant opportunities, but I don't think it's part of the plan at the moment. I can confirm that though.
Great.
I have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It might not be totally relevant, but I was just wondering, when I saw the number of panels up at the senior center is quite incredible. And I was wondering, do municipal buildings such as that, are they allowed to put more on than the regular homeowner is. Because that would mean a lot for some of these newer projects that are going up. It would be good to be able to maximize that kind of thing.
I think that's a great question, and I actually had the same question, because to me, if it's a municipal building and we have a municipal light plant, we should maximize that and make that project work. So that's something I can find out. I'll ask Connor
Thanks, that'd be great.
about that.
Good to know.
Sorry, I have to write it down or I will forget. Okay. There's nothing else on that. Then are there any member updates?
I was just curious. Our seventh grader uses name SHM.
Yeah.
Shim sent you stuff. Has that been posted? It
I'm
took him a
sorry,
while.
I haven't gotten, I am way behind. I'm sorry.
No, I just didn't want to disappoint him since he took a long time with it.
Yeah.
So it's just a reminder, but it'd be nice
Yep.
to keep him informed too. Yeah.
Yep. Anything else? Emily?
Yes, I was wondering if there was any update on the fleet advisor. First off, can you confirm that the Littleton Electric Light Department vehicles information was sent to them? And have you heard anything from them?
I believe Diane said that she did incorporate that and sent it to them, and I haven't heard anything. And I did, just earlier I suddenly remembered that we should probably check on that, because it seems like it's been a minute. I'll check with Diane and see if she make sure that everything's gone, and check in with Fleet Advisor.
Perfect, thank you.
Don?
Yeah, I was just thinking we put a lot of energy into our natural environmental mitigation plan, and that our comments, and that sort of fits into the climate action plan. It seems to have just died on the vine. Maybe it's good to ask where that's going, because it seemed like MAPC was working with the planning department to update it, and we did our part, and we heard nothing back, and it's been a couple months. So it might be nice to jog their memory that, we submit this, and is there going to be another draft or approval, or I don't know where it is. I mean,
Okay. All right, I'll check on the status. Anything else?
Oh, yes. I'm reading the minutes from last meeting. Said not having heard anything back yet about online site for the sustainability committee to park information. I think that might be much more important as we're going ahead with the CAP or MVP and all that.
Yeah, so that actually came up in the multi-town meeting with Michelle, because they also recognized that she's going to need to be sharing information back and forth with us. So I am waiting to hear on that, because that will probably play into it. I did mention it to Diane as well, that we had been talking about needing some sort of place to store files, and probably what I need to do is talk to Nancy Glencross.
Mm-hmm. And even separate from CAP, it's good having some place we can store stuff. And I know the policies and concerns
Yep.
and fears, and yeah.
Charlotte.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for the prompt, because I realized I was going to suggest reaching out to Connor again to see if he'd be interested in doing a kind of post-price change analysis on the EV charger usage. I was going to look at the times and see if it makes sense to do it now, wait a few more months. But if just wondered if there's any objections to me reaching out and seeing if you'd be interested to do that, maybe at like the 6-month mark, just to see if that price change had any impact, which I hope it did.
I think that's great.
Okay.
It would be
I'll reach out
great
to him.
even just to also know, like, actually, I think we may have a refresh of the data in Mass Energizes in our Energize Littleton as far as the number of EVs in town, and so just that's another data point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I think we've had the new chargers come online as well as the price change, and obviously some other things happening. So yeah, okay, I'll take that on.
Yeah, I actually had a friend ask the other day. Her sister was traveling and wanted to know where all the chargers were, and I started listing them, and we've got a fair number in town now. So, and both level 2 and level 3. So that was nice to be able to point to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don.
Yeah, there's the conference, the Climate Leader, or whatever conference Mass Energize is running. And I was wondering, so having paid for that, how do we handle reimbursement? I imagine that affects you and as well. Because
There's I have a form that I can send you. I need to do that too, actually.
But yeah, it's easy to forget. It's probably have to do it within the fiscal year and all that.
Yep.
Also, what you sent out about the conference or workshop called KELT seemed sort of hard to figure it out exactly, but it strikes me some of it is on equity, and we don't have environmental justice communities, but some of it is making information more interpretable, more intelligent, more understandable. Sounds like they have a toolkit that might be helpful for our CAP situation, but it's hard to tell. It's such high level, ambiguous words that it could be most anything. It could be a come on to employ them, but But I've heard good things about the organization that's pushing it power forward. There are a lot of good organizations connected up with it, but still hard telling what it is, but I've signed up for it. But it may be useful for presenting data, which I think is one of their goals.
Yeah, it seemed like it said something about supporting municipalities making decisions. So I thought that might help us when we start looking at what our goals are in the CAP, then that could help us make some decisions there or something.
Yeah, they talk about
visualization
of data, which may be part of their tool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great that you signed up. Thanks. Anything else? Don't think I had anything. All right. I have planning agenda for next meeting. I will probably make it pretty much the same with probably just, an update on the climate action plan scope and next steps. And I have a bunch of things to check on. So if anything makes sense, I'll add that. And if anyone has anything in the meantime that comes up that you want on the agenda, just let me know. I missed new business, but I think that pretty much what we were talking about. So
is the next meeting going to be on the 1st of May?
May Day.
I had not looked. I guess that would be our normal cadence. Is that okay with everyone?
I'll be traveling for work, but if you have a quorum, please keep moving.
That's the day after that Climate Leaders Conference.
Would we want to move it a week?
I think if it doesn't hurt your feelings, John, we'll just keep it on the same date. Just
I think it's
when we
easiest
start
for everyone if we can keep a date. So
Yes.
as long as the rest of the team's there and you got a quorum, please go with my blessings.
Okay. All right. Well, we will plan on May 1st for our next meeting. And I don't know if I mentioned before, if it was in the past month, the state did extend we're allowed to keep doing Zoom meetings as open meetings. They extended that, whatever that rule is.
Still put in a social motion to have, once the weather gets nice, to have one meeting somewhere in the spring, summer in person.
It could be a hybrid too, if people move about. That's often done in the Sturts room.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. And a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Emily, what say you?
Yes. Yes.
John,
Yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
and me as well. Thank you all. And thank you, Karen, for joining us. And we'll see you in May.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.